in for a treat because this is a gentleman we've had on before, Cardfather, Rob Veras. We're not going to go origin story today. You guys could go to the first episode for that. Today, we want to talk about the Burbank show. So the way we operate here, Cage has an idea. He throws the Frisbee. Andrew goes and chases it. So we did these hobby awards. And there's two categories. So it was the best addition to the hobby in 2022 and best card show of 2022. And it was neck and neck for best card show. You actually gave a shout out to the Union Marketplace saying they did a good thing. So we could talk a little bit about that. But Burbank Experience came out the gate and had so many fans. And it's crazy because it was the inaugural show. So Rob decided, I'm going to go bigger. I'm going to go way bigger. So here he is to talk about Burbank Experience number 2, Super Bowl weekend. Welcome back to the show, Mr. Cardfather.
Hey, thank you so much for having. We had so much fun the last time. I'm just stoked that you guys wanted to do it again. So again,
Cage is a fun guy.
And look forward to the conversation. Let's go.
Cage, I don't know if you saw this, but so Super Bowl weekend. Mm-hmm. What if people said about? I'll tell you my thoughts, but what if people said to you about having the show on a Super Bowl weekend?
That they like being home on Super Bowl Sunday, and that it's a little bit of a challenge to be out in California for the entire length of a show like this, and that they traditionally will have people in their house and be home, and they're trying to balance that out with going to their show.
So last weekend, and I want to hear from Cardfather what people said to you, but Dallas show, packed lobby. It was trade night, and it was Jacksonville versus the Chargers. And what I saw was probably the coolest watching experience out there because there was this camp of T-Law card holders, this camp of Herbert card holders, and they were watching the game play out in front of their eyes. So I actually am kind of excited for Burbank being on Super Bowl weekend. What have people said to you, Rob?
Well, everyone's like, why did you pick the Super Bowl? And really, the Super Bowl picked us. In a post-COVID world, any promoter that is taking anything to any kind of scale, you're really at the mercy of the venues and when you can get dates. And when we were looking around, there were no dates. Even in Ontario, it was booked. And she comes back at me and she says, we could do it February 9th through 12th if you're taking all 4 days, because there's someone only taking Saturday and we can move them. I'm like, oh, cool. Let's sign. That's awesome. I didn't even think about the Super Bowl because usually that's the first week of February, but now there's 17 games. And I'm like, it's Super Bowl weekend. But it's either you do the show that weekend or you don't do the show at all because there was nothing else available. And I'm like, I had the same thoughts. What's better than watching this game with all these like-minded folks that you become friends with over the last 2, 3, 5 years and doing it? You could be trading. It can almost be a trade night while the Cards Super Bowl's going on. So I actually look at it as a positive. Everyone around here is cool with it. Everyone's excited. They'll be there through Sunday. I get some people on the East Coast. That's fine. You do what you want to do. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And hopefully it all makes sense for everybody. But it's either Super Bowl weekend or no weekend. So we took Super Bowl week.
You asked me, what have I heard about the show?
Yeah.
Everybody I know is going to Burbank for the show. And I'm curious, you've been planning this. Like, what have been the biggest challenges and what are you most excited for as the show kind of comes up?
I'm real fortunate in this because I don't know the first thing about running a card show. I've got 2 amazing partners that have these great skill sets. None of us overlap. EJ knows everybody. He's, the event coordinator, everything e-commerce, just everything with him is awesome. He probably has more on his shoulders than any of the 3 of us. Jay's the director of logistics. He's got everything down cold, dealing with these large convention centers and dealing with the different sponsors and making sure everybody is taken care of. And so they take care of a lot of the heavy lifting, but I'm so much more involved now because corporate is going to be a much bigger part of this. Not just corporate, but corporate adding value to the consumer. And going back and forth with Beckett, I mean, that was a big pull, reeling in Beckett to do on-site grading for our second show. And that's something that I was really involved with and really pushed for.
Did you reel them in?
Yeah, they're doing on.
Of course you reeled them in.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's an important thing, what you're talking about here, right? Because, Andrew heard, this is the show everyone's going to be at. I'll tell you what I heard. I heard that it's the most expensive show for a dealer. I heard that, the charge to dealers was a lot, that it's more than last year and that it's more than any other show out there. And I guess my question to you from a dealer standpoint would be, how do you justify that, right? What is the ad? And I know Beckett on-site grading is a huge ad. So what do you do? Because I think that's part of your job, right? Your job as the show runner, the show promoter, is to make sure that the dealers leave there saying, all right, not only did I have the foot traffic, the deal flow, you name it, but I know what I paid, but I got way more than what I paid for, right?
I think that's pretty simple, actually. We only had 6-foot tables last time, and there were 500 a table, sold out, and everybody came back to me and said, that was the best show I've ever done, or it was second to the National. Without fail, that is what we heard. We were competing against the East Coast National that weekend, and we were competing against the Denver show that weekend as well, which really split up a lot of people. We were the last to actually announce that we were doing it. We still have the same cost for tables for those that are returning. We wanted to take care of those folks. So it's still at the 500. It's an 8-foot table now instead of a 6-foot table. And new folks are being brought in at 600 a table.
Okay.
LA is just way more expensive to run events in than anywhere else, period. We're not like certain shows that get basically the facilities for free because they're bringing people into town to throw cash around. It's a very expensive place, and the add-on expenses is even more than the original rent. So it's quite pricey.
But the bottom line, though, is your loyalty. People who were there last year are paying the same price and actually getting more table space. So it's not that it's more, that's good.
And they're taking more tables. And we're also going to be driving a lot more traffic. If you see, we just posted a video on my IG where the video board is up. Ontario Convention Center, the sign is right on the 10 freeway. And it says Burbank Card Show, February 9th through 12th. It's a big marketing blitz there. I don't know how many other shows have that on a major freeway going by, seeing that. So we think we're going to drive traffic. We also think the Burbank brand is powerful in driving people to the experience that we're trying to scale into this show. And lastly, there hasn't been a show like this in Southern California since the 2006 National. And I also tend to think that the LA market's the best market in the country. So I think there's a big confluence, people coming in from the Pacific Rim, people coming from all over the country. And a lot of people that didn't get there the last time are trying to get there this time because they don't want to miss out on something they heard about that was positive.
Is this a show that, you were like, okay, so at the Burbank shop, I think over 1 million sales on eBay. It's like, let's build out the show of the future for the hobby. And you kind of like a 10-year plan. Yep. Or is this one of those things that you're sort of like, I'm just going to take this 1 year at a time because the hobby needed this?
That's a hell of a question, actually. I never planned on being in this business at all. The thought just became, we're in the best market in the country, and people need to spend $800 to get their feet on the floor in Dallas.
Cardfather, careful, because Tupac Biggie, they almost fought over stuff like this. And you have a New Yorker here, and he's biting his tongue. He's like, best market. Okay. You said it. Okay. Tupac Biggie.
It's not even close.
It's definitely a market starving for this type of a show. It's definitely a market starving for this type of an event. I mean, he's right about that. And I would call it an emerging market and a learning market from a show perspective, right? Because, what you see out there are, the Dallas show and Burbank show, I would say the palate of the collectors is not as refined as us East Coast collectors, right? They drink a little more swill. We have a much more refined palate. They were buying their Scotty Barnes RPAs and their shiny BS, but now they found the vintage.
We sit at the
better
shows.
Varietals.
We have chairs at our shows.
They understand now what a 1982 Chateau Lafite will actually go for instead of drinking out of a box.
Well,
it tastes like feet.
Well,
no, Lafite, not feet.
To get back to the question here. But, it's the National. Atlantic City was a shit show. Let's just face it. It's just a horrible place to have an event. And the whole Wi-Fi thing, it was just not a great experience. And it was super expensive to get there from the West Coast. It was planes, trains, and automobiles, and very expensive to get there. The National hasn't been here since 2006. Why? It's expensive. And they're not going to be here for at least 3 years. And this market is starving for an event that can bring in national level dealers, can bring in grading companies, SGC, CSG. Tag will be grading on site, showing off their new technologies. Beckett's bringing the machines. PSA
Just kidding.
will be taking subs Thursday night for VIP, and take it back to the facility and then bring them back during the course of the show. We're hoping they'll be fully on site for the next show. And again, we're hoping all that. eBay's our title sponsor, which is also something that's a little different than your average show. And they're going to be pouring resources into the kids events that we have going on with Stephanie from Mama Breaks. We really want to make it family friendly. And we're hoping all those different attributes will sit there and go, maybe it's worth the 2-hour drive. It's Southern California. It's not like we're forcing people, to Idaho for a card show. And birds, you're coming to sunny Southern California in the middle of February instead of, someplace else that isn't Southern California. So we're hoping all those attributes lend to traffic and lend to sales for, our vendors.
So convince me. I'm gonna start. We're gonna finish this episode. I'm gonna look at overnight travel. I can't do. I'm a businessman travel. I tried to show Andrew. We do shows. I'll go to we went to the Chantilly show, and I'll fly in the morning, do the whole day show, and then fly out at night. I do that. I can't do that from New York to California. That'd be a bit much.
Thing is also Ontario is an international airport. Burbank isn't. And so there's directs from New York, and literally the airport's within 5 minutes. And that was a big selling point for me as well, is you go to Atlantic City and you're still an hour and 15 minutes away from that facility. You go to Dallas and you're still a 45-minute drive, from the airport. And so we really value having everything self-contained within 5-10 minutes. And the host hotel is literally pretty much attached to the convention center. So I know I hate going places where I land and I still have a commute. So, I'm hoping that that's something that people, will enjoy.
I haven't heard anything bad, by the way. The price seems fine for a dealer. There's a hotel attached to the thing. It's 5 minutes from an international airport. You got on-site grading, got every grading company in the world there. I mean, Mama Breaks, what an ambassador for a family-friendly experience. I mean, so far, sounds fantastic to me. Andrew, you want to poke some holes in it?
No, yeah. I want to ask Rob something. So, I'm going to ask you the tough question in a second, but the easier question is, now that you've started this, you see so many new shows popping up, and I think we'll see more shows, now that you have this 1.5 years of experience. What are some, pitfalls or advice that you might have for someone who's starting a show?
Again, I lump a lot of this onto EJ and Jay. They do most of the heavy lifting, but I think you need something that separates yourself, something that's different. And I think being real family friendly is huge. That's why Union Marketplace, I'm such a huge fan of those guys. That's more than just a transactional event. It's a family event. And I think having that kind of component is large. And I think kind of vetting dealers just to make sure there's something for everyone. One of the things that we missed on, last time was not enough hockey and not enough vintage. And you don't know until the dealer's set up and you see what they have. And so we purposely made sure that we have more vintage guys coming in. Price points. You can't just have guys with black boxes and 2 showcases with ultra monitor. It can't just be those guys. And it's important to have a mix of dealers as well. And that's something that this time around I'm adamant about. We have
Rob, you mentioned that before we even started the show. Most shows say committed, and then you have your sponsor, your influencer, whomever. But what you were doing is pretty cool. Is you're doing posts and showing people the inventory that's going to be there.
Yeah, I came up with that kind of morning. I'm in my warehouse, and
we're gonna lose them.
And I'm.
Hey, do you like the Tupac Biggie?
This right here is 4 rows of hockey game used in autos at a flat $2 a piece. And I'm going to have probably 15 of these boxes as just one attribute at my table that we're putting together to make sure that when customers come in, they're seeing all the price points covered. And I think that promoters really need not just be excited because someone's coming on board, but what are they bringing? What's the value add? Just putting a name as a commit, that's wonderful, but the customer kind of needs to know going in, what can I expect to see at these tables? Because I don't think that that's really done. It's like there's 100 different names of dealers, but what stands out there, and is it worth going to that show or maybe waiting a week or two for the other show?
So I heard a rumor that
Oh no.
you are setting a rule. It is a compless show. You don't like comps, and that no one's allowed to use comps at the Burbank show.
It's just, EJ and Jay keep texting me.
It's all right.
No,
listen, you can answer them. If I translate your last answer to Andrew, hey, what's the advice you give to somebody starting a show? It's find an EJ.
Don't.
Yeah,
right.
That's what it is. Well, and the real origin story of that was Jay is a dealer and a show dealer, and I knew that. And I was talking, I'm like, wouldn't it be cool to do a card show in this area? God, guys, man.
That's 2 weeks out. That usually means a crisis. And
yeah.
You're the last line of defense, Rob.
I hope it's all good. We're hoping to make a monster announcement day now, and
make it now. Make it on the show.
It's not final, and they would kick my ass. So
it's not baked. It's not fully baked.
It's baked. It's just,
Andrew, guess what it is. Quick, guess what it is.
Well, what would it be?
What would it be? Quick, guess. Guess what it is.
You're randomly inserting $50 and $100 vouchers for guests coming through the door that they could use at the show.
It's a hell of an idea, but that's not it. But yeah,
I saw you gave Mojo a 1-day deal, so I'm shooting for like that 10-day contract. Maybe you really like my ideas, they'll break me in.
He's setting up a boxing ring, and anyone who has sued anyone or been sued is able to get in the ring and resolve the hobby lawsuit in the ring boxing match. Card porn booked #1.
That's a group.
Hang on, let me write
sync.
He's got it. He's got these the ideas down. The end. Let's go.
Okay, so we're good. I think that might be possible. Earlier question is, what do I think going down the road? Is this something that really there's a plan going down the road? I didn't really have it. And then we started thinking, we'd really eventually love to take this to Anaheim or to LA and really just keep scaling it. And it's just like there's 4 of us. It's me, EJ, Jay, and my wife, the card mother. She's doing all the CFO financial kind of stuff. And I'm thinking, and I go to the National, I'm like, it's the most daunting year-long thing to put together. And I'm like, but I'm thinking, whatever the demand is, we want to be able to meet it. If the demand maxes out at Ontario and we don't think that a next show or a next progression would add value, then we would just stay where we're at and be happy with that. But I do plan on this being a big part of my future, and maybe even my legacy, is putting together this event on the West Coast where an entire half of the country now has something to call their own instead of always having to cross the Mississippi to go to a major event. And
so when Kobe retired, Tim Grover asked him, he's like, what are you going to do now? He's like, well, I took LA by sport. Now I just want to take over LA. We'll get into another question, but you got a really interesting communication style because like you're always customer first, but you like to try, you like to talk a little bit of ish. Who was your favorite athlete growing up?
Favorite athlete growing up? Well, until I was like 10, 12 years old, it was probably Fred Lynn. Growing up in Boston and being of a certain age, rookie of the year, MVP, and crashing into walls. And he was just like my favorite growing up as a kid. Getting to be more of an adult, obviously, Michael Jordan impacted all of us, And favorite athlete today, Tom Brady. Again, I grew up in Boston. I can't imagine 10 years ago being 45 and being subjected to that kind of pain day in and day out and just being the ultimate winner. But yeah, those guys transcend, maybe not Fred Lynn, but those other guys, they just transcend their sport. And I'm hoping at some point I can kind of transcend being just a baseball card dealer or a sports card dealer. And,
I think some people would say you're a voice of the hobby. At least one of, a dozen. I know that comes with a big responsibility. I said it, not you. Kobe. Is Kobe top 5 all time?
No.
Did we just become best friends? That's what Kate's saying. I don't like it
I
anymore.
think that you'd have to say he's better than Michael Jordan. He's not. You'd have to say he's better than LeBron James. He's not. You'd have to say he's better than Bill Russell. He's not. You can't argue 11 rings. You'd have to argue that he's better than Magic Johnson. I don't believe he's better than Magic Johnson. And that right away will push you outside the top 5. And I would argue I'd rather have Shaq than Kobe. Kobe's rings would never have happened without Shaq. Like, not even close. Those were Shaq's rings, not Kobe's rings. So no, I wouldn't say he's top 5. You got Wilt Chamberlain to throw in there. No. 8 or 9 possibly, but I keep him around 11, 12, honestly. So that's just
12 is where sweet spot. I said anywhere between 8 and 12.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
I'm with you 100%. But you know what?
Now,
we have a little age on us, man. So the younger generation probably listening to this doesn't even know who Fred Lynn was.
Yeah,
this is what happens. And you have to deal with that as a card person, right? I mean, the flavors change. What people like change.
Yeah, and we're always trying to adapt to that. It's when we moved into the new location, it didn't look anything like what it looks like right now because you don't know. You think you know, but your customers will tell you what they want. And if you're not doing that, you're dead. And
how long have you been doing this? How long? How many years?
Too long. I've owned it for 33 years, and actually it'll be 34 years. And
I don't even want to go back 33 years. Go back 15 years. Mojo walks into your store with his camera. You're going to beat his ass and kick him out. You call the police on him. You know what I mean? You're like, what the hell is this? You can't film in here. Get that. That's not the point. He's the nicest guy in the world. And now you get it. This is the way the hobby is done now. He comes in, he signs a one-day contract. It's a whole to-do. 15 years ago, people were like, get this guy the hell out of here. What are they doing?
My favorite is when Rob walks around his store with the camera and unsuspecting customers. It's actually, Kate, I think it's one of the best things on the ground.
Yeah, I had Talon. I had Brian in here from Talon like 3 hours yesterday. Just shooting content. Another guy walks in that's doing a documentary with a guy that does 30 for 30. I have another guy yesterday that emailed something to do with a big project that's going on. And that was just yesterday. And I'm like, there's just so much stuff spinning with Fanatics. And just 2023 is going to be ridiculous in the most positive of ways. And I did a video, maybe it was yesterday, that basically the headline was "The Hobby's Dead." And then, and I kind of talked about, where the hobby's headed and that it couldn't be healthier than it is right now. And it couldn't be in more of an opportunity to go like this than it is right now. And
if you could ask for 2023, if you could ask something of the corporations of the hobby, the participants, and then the mojos, the influencers,
right?
What would you ask?
The folks like
Continental breakfast. That's off the table. That's Andrew's ask.
Get free packs in the kids' hands. Get packs where moms spend money. Get stuff at supermarket checkouts. Get packs at 7-Elevens. Get where packs are synonymous. Where you ever go to shop, there's an opportunity to buy a pack, a $2 pack, and get it into the hands of kids. We had a kids' night the other night that was bonkers. I mean, it was overwhelming. And a lot of these kids had never been in a card shop before because they came with their friends. And we gave away so much stuff. It was just relentless giveaways. And the kids were opening packs and the joy and the thanks. Because once you get a kid to open a pack, there's a very good chance they're going to want to open more. And there's a very good chance that mom, for $10 can reward their kid for doing something. And we don't have that right now. We have blasters at retail that are never available. And that's basically the retail footprint out there.
Moms just want to see their kids smile. And once you pop, the fun don't stop. It's one of those.
And I think that's critical. And talking to Mike Mahan and the powers that be at Fanatics, that is priority 1, 2, and 3 is grassroots, getting packs into kids' hands and getting that first taste. Because my first taste was with the ice cream man at age 7 in Brockton, Massachusetts. And once you open a pack, there's nothing better, but we need to price it. And that's the second thing is we can't have 4X products out the shoe with no return on investment. We need to get back to SRPs. And dealers aren't going to like to hear this, but products are made to be a certain price. And when you double, triple, and quadruple that, the person that loses is the end user, who's the last person we can afford to lose. And being able to sit there and get back to 25, 30-point margins. And dealers are probably screaming bloody murder right now. But we're going to move so much more volume. The customer satisfaction is going to be that much greater. And you're not going to lose customers like we have the last 3 years with all the artificial hype and the price of grading and all these things that just went stupid. We need to be smarter in 2023 and grow this organically. And I think that's up to the manufacturers and Fanatics in particular to make sure that we're careful in cultivating new customers and not taking advantage like we might have done the last couple of years.
I got two more.
Because I went to my LCS yesterday, and he's like, "Oh, Topps Finest is coming out. It's $200 a box." And my guy charges me, good prices. I don't know. That's probably lower than what most stores charge. He usually charges me. And I said, "Topps Finest, $200 for a box? Like, really?" And he's like, "Fanatics raising their prices across the board." And I said, "Really? Fanatics? I thought everybody's hoping for Fanatics to come in and right size everything and figure out a way to not make everything so expensive." So I don't know, man. I mean, everybody's asking a lot of Fanatics.
Well, I'll tell you something. Yes and no, but you look at how expensive Fanatics Finest was on the secondary market from distributors last year. Remember, they're cutting the fat from the distributors, which to me is the most important thing in this whole thing, is to make sure that the distributors aren't getting rich at the expense of the customers. And
okay, that's fair. That's fair. I get what you're saying. So I may pay a little for my direct box. Like, I got it cheaper last year, but most people weren't able to get that LCS box because I have a multi-decade relationship with my LCS. They were having to get it on the secondary that was marked up distributor to their LCS to wherever, so they were paying $400 a box. I get it. I mean, okay.
Wax is that fundamental to the hobby?
That's where all the cards come from, dude. I mean,
I don't rip wax. You got to understand. I understand gambling, so I stay. I don't rip wax. I just don't. It scares me because it doesn't feel like a good investment.
Yeah, it's fundamental, but I don't think it's the say all end all. I think that there's this silent majority and this vocal. What is it? Silent majority and vocal minority, and we listen to the vocal minority way too much. If you go to my warehouse in the back, you will see thousands and thousands of cards ordered every single day. Those guys aren't real vocal about it. There's no bro screaming into an iPhone. Oh, wow, I just upgraded my JaVale McGee collection. You don't hear about it, but it happens every single day. And those people have no interest in opening boxes whatsoever. They have a passion. They want to complete something. They want to start something. They like the way something looks. It has nothing to do with unopened product. And we sell way more singles than we sell product. People come in my store, I'm going to say half and half buy boxes as opposed to only buy singles. So it's fundamental, but it's not the say all end all. And I think it's been the big part of it because most people don't want to deal in singles. You walk into a shop, what do they have for sale? They have boxes and they maybe have some graded cards. So they're kind of funneling you to buy those types of things because they haven't done the work to really have single sections in there that maybe give you a choice where you can spend that $50 and pick up some really cool looking Kobe Bryant cards. You can get 10 different ones, or you could buy that blaster for $50 where the ROI, there's no way in hell that you're going to feel good about that. So, so I think it's yes and no.
You've been really generous with your time. February 9th through 12th, Ontario, California. Super easy to get there. 4 minutes away from the airport. Awesome hotel, pool. I think it's nice weather in February.
Yeah, it's 72 is what we're hoping for.
70s. Nicer than these guys. So, Super Bowl weekend. Who's playing?
Chiefs is kind of the way I'm looking at this thing right now.
Chiefs and who else? Eagles.
I think 49ers.
Cage?
Yeah. I like that. I think it's a decent call.
Patrick Mahomes versus Joe Montana. Good.
I'd like to see the Bengals. I'd like to see the Bengals get in. I'd like to see Burrow get in, but I don't think it happens.
Yeah.
What do you ask of the community in 2023? Just the participants, if anything, maybe.
Just just find happiness in what you're doing more than anything else. Don't listen to people that you probably shouldn't be listening to. Make your own decisions. Put your money where you're going to enjoy whatever you're buying 5 years from now. I think that so many people have bought so much stuff in the last 2 years that they have no interest in looking at. They just put it into a triple shoe and make it disappear. Just buy cards that you're going to enjoy down the road. And it doesn't get talked about a whole lot. And, just support those that do right by the community. And, more than anything, just pass the gospel. Post what you're doing on IG. Tell your friends what you're doing. Get kids involved. You don't need to have a shop to get kids involved in your community. You could just be coaching a team. It's just little things that, get the tentacles out there that, grow the pie. And just enjoy it. It's the greatest hobby in the world.
It is.
You're a legend. Thank you, Cardfather. Cage, you're the man. Luca Nation, I hope you enjoy this.
This is the first time I heard there was a card mother. I mean, this is just crazy.
She hates.
And Ryan got no play. I mean, there was EJ and J.I. and the card mother. I didn't even hear anything about Ryan.
Ryan has nothing to do with the show, but he'll be there Friday and Saturday. He had a line 20 people deep at the last show, like literally waiting to.
Everybody loves Ryan.
He's the guy. I mean, when you talk goats, not just because he's my son, he's so much smarter than I am. It's the beauty of our business is having a 27-year-old now running the business, and the business has been around in some way, shape, or form since 74. We probably have another 40 years tacked on to our business. And that kid is, he's built different. And so he'll be there with Ray. We're going to have a lot of big buyers on the floor. We're hoping this show is like the last one where it was a cash show. It wasn't like so many shows. It's trading, it's comps, it's all that. We want more spending money on the floor. So we're hoping to be able to, get that rolling and get cash going back and forth. Because without cash,
yeah. You heard it here first, folks. Don't try to trade and don't bring in comps. Just cash. Just bring your cash.
Yeah. But literally, unless there's cash backing what we're all doing in this category, it's going to be painful like 2022 or 2020. So
I don't mean to set you up, but does this bother you? Yes or no? And you could elaborate. I buy a set of cards. I put them on my Instagram story, say like, I got my grail. And then like 2 weeks later, 2 hours later, 2 months later, I say available. Does that bother you?
No. Why should it? He finally got that card that he's always wanted. He's enjoyed it for an hour or a week, whatever. And he's realized that that's an ends to a mean to even go up to a greater grail that he didn't know he had access to in the first place, or she. I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. I don't think a grail is a forever home. That was a goal to reach. I've reached that goal. Now, all of a sudden, there was a grail that I didn't even think I was capable of getting to. That card becomes a means to an end to get to that next grail. So that's just me.
I love it. Luca Nation.
Good answer. It's a good answer. It's why the Kobe top 5 debate will never be. It's an undefined term. What makes someone a top 5 for you is a top 5 for somebody else. It's rings. Is it individual success? A grail in the hobby. Who the hell knows?
If I was doing top 5 of the hobby, you two guys 100% shoo-in unanimous in the top 5. To round out the top 5, you'll have to stay tuned to listen to more episodes, Luca Nation.